Good morning. I want to talk a little bit about gates, opening gates and closing gates. You know, let me read to you from Psalms 24, and I would highly recommend that you read the whole thing. I'm just going to read the latter part of Psalm 24, beginning in verse 7. It says this: Lift up your heads, O ye gates, and be ye lift up, you everlasting doors, and the King of glory will come in. Who is this King of glory? The Lord strong and mighty, the Lord mighty in battle. Lift up your heads, O ye gates, even lift them up, you everlasting doors, and the King of glory shall come in. Who is this King of glory? The Lord of hosts. He is the King of glory. Selah. I wanted to talk about that because, there are gates that we need to close and there are gates that we need to open. But what are gates? What are gates? When Jesus said to Peter, he said, You're Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. So what constitutes a gate anyway? A gate is a doorway into or out of your life. That's a gate. It's also a doorway. Same thing. But how do you open gates and how do you close gates? Well, you open gates and you close gates by your choices. The gates are operated by human choice. And whether you choose to let the enemy in or whether you choose to let the Lord in determines the gates that you open and the gates that you close. Because these gates, you see, can go two different ways. And this is, by the way, one of the bases of spiritual warfare. One of the basics of spiritual warfare is whether we're going to open gates or whether we're going to close gates. In other words, what choices are you going to make? The choices that you make will determine whether the gates into your life are open or closed. So a lot of people focus on closing the gate to the enemy, and I agree. I think that's something that needs to be done. One of the first things that needs to be done in our life is to ask the Lord to help us identify the gates that need to be closed to the enemy. But it doesn't stop there. The next thing that we need to do is we need to ask the Lord to show us what gates we need to open to Him. And sometimes it's a hard thing to do because we have a tendency to want to partition our lives, don't we? We want to lock God out. We want to close the gate to God in one or more areas of our lives. We're not willing to open to Him. And that cripples us. If you won't let God into an area of your life, it will cripple you. Let me show you what I'm talking about. This is in Revelation chapter 3. And verse 18. And Jesus is not talking. And it's interesting because I've heard this verse used all my life in regards to unbelievers, calling them to salvation. And yes, it can be used as such, but the context of this particular verse, he's talking to believers in the church of Laodicea. And in Revelation 3, chapter 3, verse 20, he says this, behold, I stand at the door and knock. What did we just, what were we just talking about? Lift up your heads, O ye gates, lift them up, you everlasting doors, and the King of glory will come in. I stand at the door of your life, and I knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come into him, and will sup with him, and he with me. Isn't that a neat picture? You get to sit down and visit with Jesus over dinner. How many of you would be comfortable inviting Jesus to dinner at your house sometime? What do you think you would want to hide? What do you think you'd want to put away so that he couldn't see it if he came into your house for dinner one day? Think about that for a minute. You couldn't hide it anyway. He'd know you had it. And I guess that's one of the reasons why we're hesitant to open the door and let Jesus come in fully into our life. And it's not a matter of judgment or condemnation. It's a matter of blessing, you see. We are afraid to let Jesus bless us, aren't we? We're afraid to let Jesus into our lives because there are areas of our life that we have not opened to him, and we need to. We need to. You see, the gate swings two ways. You can open to Jesus, and when you open to Jesus, it's closed to the enemy. When it's closed to the enemy, you better open it to Jesus. Just saying. There are gates of offense, and gates of inferiority, also gates of egotisticalness, or egoism, I guess you'd call it. There are gates of pridefulness and arrogance that need to be closed. But when you close the gate to the enemy, what do you open to the Lord? Instead of pridefulness, you open the gate of humility. Instead of arrogance, you open the gate of obedience. You know, one thing I found, I think I may have said something about it last week. You know, the Lord doesn't particularly care whether we like what we're doing or not. What he cares about is whether we're obedient or not. Well, I can't tell you how many times I said, oh Lord, do I have to? Do I really have to, Lord? Okay. And so you do it. But then, when you've been obedient, then you feel better about it. Because win, lose, or draw, you know that when you stand before God, you can say, yes, Lord, I was obedient. So, which gate are you going to open and which gate are you going to close? That's not something I can tell you. All I can tell you is that gates need to be opened to the Lord and closed to the enemy. And the gate or gates that need to be operated by you are operated by your choice. Are you willing to choose Jesus or not? You know, in Hebrews, it tells us that Moses had the opportunity to be a big muckety muck in Egypt, but it says that he refused that, choosing rather to suffer with God's people. You see, one of the things that I found is that sometimes when you serve God, you're way out of your comfort zone. Way out of your comfort zone. You know, I was talking to a guy last night, and this dude was in the other side of La La Land. He had an unclean spirit. He had a spirit of deception on him. He was telling me things that supposedly his guiding spirit, Satan Bartholomew, had showed him and taught him. And this guy was not able even to comprehend because there was so much mixture in his life. He couldn't receive the truth, the simple truth. And it broke my heart. And I pray for this guy. I think God wants to set him free, but I don't know that he wants to be free. But he's the one that has to open the gate to God and close the gate to the enemy. And he can only do that by choosing faith over feeling. What are you going to do? Please go before the Lord and ask the Lord to help you to recognize any gates in your life that may need to be opened to him, and any gates in your life that need to be closed to the enemy. And when he shows you those things, then begin to respond. Speak the word by faith, and it will be done. You guys have a great week. And hello, Elena and Abigail. Grandpa loves you.